hearts need unity.
Welcome back. We tuned into Inspired Afternoons with me, Mariam Mia, and now we're on to our last segment, the first of our Did You Know segments. So Did You Know segments is about educating and empowering our listeners, including myself, in anything that's topical and just to increase our understanding of the world, the issues around us, what is happening. And at the moment, I think for the past 2 months, and it just seems to be the topic of discussion, whether it be on our social media platforms, on the news, in our conversations, whatever it is COVID-19. Hashtag COVID-19 is still the top newsmaker, news story, breaking news story. And today I thought, with the increased cases being reported and also increase of testing, and many people are finding themselves part of a tracer in terms of somebody has been identified as being tested positive, and now there's a whole string of people that have been in contact with that individual, and you might find yourself having to go for a COVID test. And that thinking, I just thought to myself, what does it entail? And also, what does it mean if you're doing preventative screening? What is a screening? What is a test? And also, in terms of what is COVID? So we talked about COVID-19, but what type of a virus it is? To help us understand everything COVID, we're going to be joined by Dillon Pillay. He's actually a medical technologist, and he's regional manager of Hamadi Laboratories. And so he's at the forefront of everything COVID and COVID testing. Those are the guys in the white lab coat. He doesn't have his white lab coat on here, but they are the guys, the lab coat individuals that actually do the smiling, the white coats that actually then do the results, and you're waiting. They are the ones that analyze the results, they do the testing and everything. He's smiling. He doesn't look stern faced as I picture these lab coat guys, but he's from Hamadi Laboratories. And interestingly, Hamadi is a Sotho term for house or place of blood. And if you think of a lab, what do you think of? All these vials of blood there. And so Hamadi is and they are a group of pathologists, which include clinical pathologists, or virologists, histopathologists, and several other specialities. And Hamadi have been established over 15 years ago. And you find Hamadi Laboratories in over 9 provinces across South Africa. So let's welcome technologist Mr. Pillay. Welcome to Salam Media. Can you hear me? Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. Just if you can speak up a bit louder. So, okay, welcome to Salam Media, and thank you for giving us your time to help us understand everything related to COVID-19, including the screening and the testing thereof. So let's begin at the beginning. What is COVID-19?
This is a acute respiratory syndrome. So it is a respiratory system. That's what they
Dillon, what I'm going to do is, let me just see. I'm struggling to hear you. Let me just see if we can just do something here on our side, or get you on a better line there. I'm just going to ask Zia to work the magic here. Maybe we can't get him on B Live. Let's just see if we can get Dillon on a conventional telephone line, and then we can probably get... So let's do this. Let's just go for a short break, and let's see if we can get Dillon on a better line.
This unity will be our fall. Our reasons for beefing are small. The scheme is we need peace for all. Believe in your dreams and stand tall. Believe in your dreams. Hey, yeah. United we stand, so divided we fall. Hey, It's time for us to change and break these chains, yeah, yeah. Work together to succeed, show them what we can be, yeah, yeah. We just need unity. Oh, yeah.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media.
Welcome back. You tuned into Salam Media, and this is your afternoon segment, Inspired Afternoons, with me, Mariam Mia. And as I mentioned earlier in our Did You Know segment, we are speaking about COVID-19 and in terms of testing. And on the line, let me just check if we've got Dillon Pillay back, and he's the regional manager of Hamadi Laboratories, and he's a medical technologist as well. And before the break, I just asked him if he can please explain to us what is COVID-19. So let's just see. Dillon, do I have you on the line? Let me just check with Zia. Zia, do we have Dillon on the line? Dillon, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, so we all good, yes. So can you explain to us first, in simple terms, what is COVID-19 and what are the symptoms of COVID-19?
Okay, COVID-19 is severe acute respiratory syndrome. Okay, the symptoms, sore throat, shortness of breath, high fevers, it's basically flu-like symptoms.
And then, Dillon, so let's next then, how does it spread?
Mainly via respiratory droplets when produced when an infected person coughs or sneezes.
Okay, so and hence the need for our mask and our visors and that. So that is the way, because it won't go through your skin. So it's you, like you say, respiratory. So to infect somebody, they would have had to inhale an infected person droplets. Am I correct in my understanding of this?
Yes.
Okay, and then so prevention, we've been told to prevent it, we need to frequently wash our hands or sanitize. What are the other ways of how do we prevent us from becoming infected with COVID-19?
Well, basically, we not to come in contact with people that are sick by using masks, gloves, washing your hands. Staying away from public places.
Okay. Now what I needed to, this is actually where I needed to understand in that in terms of, so how do you diagnose medically in terms of a laboratory? How do you get a COVID-19 diagnosis? So let's just start this. If we need to, how do we get tested? What is it? Do we have to take a viral of blood, or is it a skin swab, or what is the process of the test? So if somebody is quite nervous, and especially somebody like me who was very afraid of needles and things like that, how do you test for a sample? What do you take, a blood sample or skin sample to test for COVID-19?
Okay, we use something called a swab, which we use take a nose swab or a throat swab. The swab is like a bud, like a cotton bud that we insert into the passage or your throat. That's where we take the test is done.
So just so in simple terms, actually a swab. So it's actually your saliva, or maybe from your nose, your mucus from your nose, or a saliva swab from your inside of your mouth, closer to your throat. Am I correct in my assumption of that? Okay, so nothing with needles in it. Okay, so you know, you have anxiety. We're just going for the test. At least in terms of what you're going to use to sample this to find out whether you're positive or negative is not so traumatic because it's a simple swab. Okay, so once you had the swab, what happens now in the laboratory in terms of your determination whether somebody is COVID-19 positive or negative?
Okay, the department that is actually doing the swabs, well, the COVID-19 testing, is PCR. It's called PCR. They test for 3 different genes, and that's how we pick up the COVID. So 3 different types of genes are used. We do an extraction. So the swab that I was telling you about, we extract whatever is on that swab, and then we test it on one of our PCR analyzers, with 3 different genes.
Okay, so can you just expand upon this amplification process?
Well, what happens is it actually blows up the virus so that we actually can test. So that's what the amplification is. It amplifies it.
Oh, yes.
Amplifies.
Okay, so now I'm getting the idea. So so making it bigger so you can check it and study it properly. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you know if you had COVID before?
Look, there's a new testing that is actually being validated at the moment, and it's called an antibody testing. So we're going to be moving away from the swab to blood. We're still validating. It should be in another month that it will be released. So what happens there? We test for a certain type of antibody, and it will tell us now if this person has been infected before or not. But it hasn't actually got onto the market yet, and it'll be a much cheaper way for testing.
Oh, is it? Okay. And tell me, much cheaper, but also it will give you additional information as well. So this test will be able to provide you, like you say, it will tell you prior whether somebody had COVID or didn't have COVID. So it will give you a lot more information for that. So when do you expect this type of testing to be on the market?
By the middle of July to the end of July.
Okay. So now tell me something. You know, we read about these false negatives and false positives and that. So first of all, let's just break it down just in layman's terms. What is a false negative and what is a false positive? And what are the sources of these false negative and positives?
Look, false positives are very rare. Extremely rare that we get a false positive. Unless it's a transcription error, and meaning a transcription error, now somebody actually entering an incorrect result onto the system. So mistakenly, instead of saying that it's not detected, they say it's detected. So false positives are very rare. When it comes to a false negative, what happens is when you take the swab from the nasal, depending now, you can't just take it, you have to take it from deep within. You can't just take it from the surface of the nose. So that's where now we don't extract the virus and then you get a false negative. That's how that works.
Oh, okay. So now I'm understanding you in terms of a false negative. So a person who were tested and they were negative, but maybe 2 or 3 days later they manifest with symptoms and they retest and then they tested positive. So your first one would be declared a false negative, probably because like you say, the stuff was just taken from the surface of the nose or just from the surface of the mouth, and hence it did not detect the COVID-19 virus prior to this. Okay, so I'm learning a lot now in our Did You Know segment in terms of understanding, you know why these terms are brained around and we watch them in the news and on social media and that, and really we don't understand properly what I entail. Hence, I've even asked you from Hamadi to come on so you can just explain to us in layman's terms so that we can make sense, because sometimes you don't want to concede that you don't know what's being said, and just ignorance is bliss, but it's always good to understand all those things. Okay, what type of SARS? Okay, so you told me this, and then with the flu season coming up now, we know winter, we have commenced with winter, and June, July, August is winter months now in Southern Africa. Can there be like a confusion in terms of because your symptoms in terms of flu or your throat ache and things like that, sore joints, and even sometimes with respiratory conditions, we could maybe confuse it with the flu being COVID-19. So is there a difference between, is there some kind of test that will tell you whether it's influenza or it's a COVID-19?
Yes, what we do is we advise the patients now that actually come in to do an influenza A and B and do the COVID testing so that we can differentiate between the COVID-19 and an influenza.
Okay, so if you are feeling flu or you've come down with a flu and you're uncertain, it's advisable to then either do the influenza test or the COVID-19, or should we do, what do you advise? Do you do both?
Do both.
You do both. Okay, and then tell me something. Currently at your lab, I always put all our guests on the spot here, because especially now with lockdown and people not being at work and everybody's now starting to get to work, and that, so funds are tight, but I mean, for your health, and if you need the test, you do need the test. And that, so is Hamadi Labs offering some kind of discount, especially even to our Salam Media, Salam Foundation listeners here? What does a test cost for a flu or or a COVID-19 test at your lab?
Usually with other labs, they're charging you 850 rand for the COVID-19 testing. With Hamadi Lab, we're charging a price of 650. So
that is not bad at all, yeah.
Yeah. So
this is for a proper full COVID-19 test.
We're doing
650,
which is a PCR testing at other laboratories. The same analyzers we use, everything of the same thing, so there's nothing different.
Okay, and for the influenza test?
The influenza test, I'm not too sure on the pricing, but we are also cheaper than the bigger laboratories.
And if they're going to say they heard it on Inspired in the afternoon at Mariam Mia show, you will offer them that discounted rate for my listeners here on Salam Media. So just ask for Dillon, the regional manager, and say, heard it on air on Inspired, and you should get it for 650, and the influenza at a discounted, cheaper rate as well. Dillon, thank you for your time. And how do we get hold of Hamadi Labs? Is there a number? Is there a website? How do we contact you to find out where is our nearest Hamadi Lab?
Okay, what you can do is we are on the website, Hamadi Lab, and then our telephone number at the main lab is 011 312 0717.
Okay, you can just repeat that number again fast. Your main lab here in Johannesburg?
011 312 0717.
Okay, thanks so much. But we'll go, and Hamadi is Hamadi, Hamadi Labs. You can check out their website, and if anybody does require a COVID-19 test, or an influenza test, I mean, at 650, it's a very reasonable price compared to all the other labs. And as Dillon has said, it's the same test, and they use the same equipment, analytical equipment, and it's the same test. Thanks so much for joining us here on Salam Media in just explaining to us this whole process of testing, as well as this false negatives, false positives, and everything related to COVID-19. So thanks so much. Stay safe, and we appreciate your time here on Salam Media.
All right, thank you.
So that was Dillon Pillay from Hamadi Labs, and yes, I think that makes me also feel at ease in terms of testing, as well as so it's basically a simple swab test as well. And well, then also, if you want to know whether it's influenza or it's COVID, there's a test for that, so that's good to know, as well as what is the next time on air if you see false positives, false negatives, we actually know what it is. So that is, did you know? Now you know. And this was only on Salam Media. And thanks so much once again for joining me. This was our inaugural first 2 days of inspired afternoons with me, your host Mariam Mia. And tomorrow, the afternoon show continues with my kindred sister and colleague Nafisa Dengo from 2 to 4 as well. So do tune in. And until next week, Monday, be safe, be inspired. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.